All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our session. Transform your teaching with Copilot. My name is Kurt Hurlbrink. I am a DLC in the Central area, and joining me today I have Elizabeth Walton, DLC for the Eastern area schools, and Mike Meehan, who is a DLC for the Southwestern schools. So as we work, just remember to please mute your microphone. Go ahead, if you haven't already, and introduce yourself in the chat and include your name, your school, and the role at your school. So what is National AI Literacy Day? It's an annual event dedicated just to increasing the awareness and understanding of artificial intelligence. And the goal is to provide a variety of activities tailored for all grade levels and professional development opportunities for educators. So today with Copilot, we're going to show you how to create some engaging lesson plans, how you can personalize your student support, and also how you can streamline some of your administrative tasks. So for anyone who hasn't used Copilot, Copilot is just an artificial intelligence tool, and like other tools, it uses large language models for guidance. The great thing about Copilot is that it has a seamless integration with Microsoft, and it does learn and adapt from your prompts. So the more you interact with Copilot, the more it's going to remember who you are, what you teach, and the types of information you're looking for. Copilot is available to everyone in the portal. To get to it, you would just click on the Microsoft 365 link in your portal. Once that window opens, along the left-hand side, you'll see a link to Copilot. And when you open up Copilot, this is the view you'll have. On the left are some navigation tools. In the center are some prompts. And on the right side, those are your most recent chats. I will say the one thing with Copilot is I feel like it actually saves a lot more of your work than some of the other AI tools that you're probably familiar with. As we work with AI, this is probably a document that you've all seen before. We're going to talk about lesson planning, and when we interact with any AI tool, we want to use as much information as possible. And so we always talk about the craft model, where we enter the context, the role, our audience, the format we're looking for, and the task or tone that we want it to use. So for this example, you can see in my context, I'm telling them that I am a social studies teacher in North Carolina, and here's the standard. The role I want AI to take on, you're going to act like George Washington. Who the audience is. So in this case, it's 8th grade social studies students. What's going to be the format? I'm going to ask you questions. It'll be like an interview. And when you respond, you're going to do so like you're George Washington. And then the task or tone, I'm going to ask various topics centered around President Washington, and I want you to answer using a professional tone. Okay, so in doing that, I've created a couple of lesson plans already. So let me switch over to my Copilot. There we go. So once I'm in Copilot here, you can see here are those tools I talked about. In the middle are my prompts. Down here along the bottom, this is where I would enter my information. And then over here on the right, there is that history that I was telling you about. So to start with, I'm going to go to a lesson plan I've already created, which is the Chocolate War. And up at the top, you can see the prompt I used. I'm a high school English teacher in North Carolina, and here's the standard that I'm studying. Um, my class is reading The Chocolate War. I want you to take on the role of an instructional designer and use UDL techniques to create a 3-day lesson addressing this standard. I want a formal plan that includes individual, small group work, and a collaborative task as a final product. So you can see the response here that I got from Copilot. Day 1, my objective gives me warm up, a mini lesson, guided practice, some discussion, and it tells me what materials I might need for the day. Day 2, same sort of format as day 1. And then day 3, here is my collaborative task and my final product. And so you can see that for their final product, this time it's project work. They're working in groups, and it gave them 3 options on how they could present this content, and then they're going to present that back to the class. Again, here are my materials that I would need. Tells me how I can do both formative and summative assessments of my students. And then UDL techniques. And it explains here which of the UDL techniques this lesson plan incorporates. So multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, multiple means of engagement. You could also notice here, edit in pages. By clicking that, it's just going to open it up into a document. And that document, then I can go in and edit it so I can change the content. If I need to type over something, change something, add something, delete. And I will say when I did this lesson plan, the result or the follow-up that Copilot provided were really great. I know one of them it asked me was, do you want me to create a rubric for the presentation? It talked about, do you want me to expand on the small group work? And those types of things would all show up here. Once I navigate away from this lesson plan and go on to something else, then its suggestions go away. However, once I come down here and continue to type, it will start to generate those suggestions again. So in this case, multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, and multiple means of engagement. So the other one I asked it to do was then a 4th grade lesson plan. So here again, I told them that I was a teacher. I'm working with this standard, and we want to use primary, secondary sources to compare multiple perspectives during historical North Carolina events. I want the final project. So I've already done the lesson. I just want Copilot to help me come up with some sort of an activity. Again, it's giving me some pre-work I can do, and then finally moves into this group presentation and their final product. Just like all AI type tools like ChatGPT, etc. When I originally created this, I then had 4 or 5 options on how to revise it. So I could go in and say, please expand on the day 2 lesson, or please modify it so that the kids are using Google Slides. Um, so I do have that option as well. And again, that is just once I've done it, it's then housed over here um, in my history. So another example that I wanted to show you, talking about how it can help me maybe create a quiz. So here I've entered my standard. I am teaching 7th grade science. I'm focusing on this objective. And I just asked it, can you create a 5-question quiz based off of this video? So I included the YouTube link, and Copilot was able to look at the video and then create a 5-question multiple choice quiz with the answer key. And then for the next example, what I did was this time I went into CMAP and I pulled out a PDF from 7th grade science. And I said, my students, they have to read this PDF. However, I have 5 students who currently read below grade level. Can you please rewrite the PDF for a 5th grade reading level? Around 1,000 lexiles would be perfect. And so there you can see it shows that I had attached a PDF. And it just says, here's a simplified version that matches that lexile. Okay, so I'm able then to take the content, and so now I can adapt it to match my students. So whether it's their reading ability or just if you want to take something maybe and simplify it, Copilot can help you with that. So here I again pulled a PDF and comparing the structures and functions of plant and animal cells. They need to read it. Again, I told them that I had some. Sure, they're going to help me simplify it. So here, instead of just rewriting it, they actually broke the content down. And Copilot was able to take that PDF and actually condense it. And so there's my plant cell, there's my animal cells. And it said, well, I hope this helps, right? And so one of the options I had down here was add more visuals. So I literally clicked that, said add more visuals. Copilot said, I'll try. They came up with this. I said, make it colorful and engaging. So we got the color down. Include a cell comparison chart. I'll try to do that. Make it easy to read. Sure. So now we went back to the PDF. And when I said comparison chart, instead of creating the visual, it just created a chart. And I was able to do that. One thing I have found, so Copilot does have the capability of creating images, but they're not always the best. And it really takes a lot of refinement in your prompt to get exactly what it is you're looking for. Okay, but then I decided that's all right. So I'll just use this chart instead. I have 2 more examples I want to share with you, and then I'm going to show you a couple of the other tools in here as well. So one of the things that can also help us with is just the administrative stuff that sometimes we have to do. So I had a seating chart, So I took a class roster. It was an Excel spreadsheet. And I said, can you create a collaborative seating chart for this roster? Students are going to be working in groups throughout the semester, but please separate Kurt, Elizabeth, and Mike. So Copilot came back and said, here you are. I ensured that Kurt, Elizabeth, and Mike are separated into different groups. And then it just randomly created groups for me. So then I had it refine. I refined my search, make it into a digital chart. And so it created this for me. You can see my 4 groups, and you can see Kurt, Elizabeth, Mike are all in different groups. And again, because it's designed to work well with Microsoft, anything in Word, PowerPoint, Excel that you upload into here, it has very little issue trying to read it or understand it. Can you share it via Google Drive? Sure. You can go from here. And then the last one was just my 2nd grade students are going on a field trip to Duke Homestead, April the 2nd, 10 o'clock, and they need to bring a lunch. Can you create a letter and permission form? And Copilot came up with this. So quick intro, here's what's happening. Here's the date. Please pack a lunch for your child. What to bring. And then the permission form, including it asks for emergency contact, medical information, etc., and a signature. Okay. Now it added all of that stuff on its own. If you recall, all I said was, here's where we're going. Here's the date. Here's the time. Bring a lunch. But it knew enough about a field trip to know that I would probably need to know medical information on my kids. I would need phone numbers for parents, etc. So now I have this, right? So I have this field trip note. What am I going to do with it? Well, if you look over here, you have this pages. So if you open up pages, I can save those prompts into pages and they become editable. So now I could take that field trip note, I could save it into the page and open it up over here, and then I can come in and type and change it and work with it. I can also, once I put it into pages, I can share it. So I could take this link right here and then share it with my PLC, and they would be able to come into Copilot and access the exact same form that I'm working on. If I want to go back to Copilot, I just click on the button. I'm back to my field trip. Okay. And to do that, at the end of any prompt, you're just going to see down here, edit in pages. So I'm going to open it up. Here it is. I can come in, start typing. Once I click that button and open it up here on the side and X out, then it'll show up back over here. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. And I believe either Mike or Elizabeth, who's up next for questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat. I do want to give everyone a few minutes to do some exploring with Copilot if you have not already. If you have any questions or you want to unmute and share something about Copilot that you've either discovered now in this session or in previous experience with Copilot, we'd love to hear it. We did have someone say that it is incredible.
Yes, the data question. So yes, uh, any information in here is a lot more secure um, than it would be in a chat GPT because it's actually encrypted on the Wake County side because it's built into our 365 license. Do students do not have access currently. It is 18 plus. So it's going to be teacher only, but just like other tools, Copilot, you can use it with your kids as long as it's teacher driven, right? So you could have a discussion, like you could do that George Washington discussion, as long as Kurt, the teacher, is driving in Copilot and just displaying it for my kids. I will say one of the other things I found, I was playing around with it and I threw in a standard, said, hey, I'm a teacher, I'm teaching this. Can you provide resources? And it's immediately returned probably 5 or 6 websites that I could use with my kids. It returned a video that I could show to my kids. So you can get really creative with what you ask it to do.
I think we have a question, Kurt.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my ears just perked up when you said you can ask it for a video, much like Chat GTP. When you do that, it doesn't give you maybe a real one, but this one will give you one that you actually use and
It
find.
should, well, if you said find a YouTube video on this for these students, it should be able to pull up an address for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You can get it to create rubrics. I liked in that example I shared just being able to throw the YouTube link in there and say create a quiz. The other thing you could do is throw the YouTube link in and say create discussion questions, and it will summarize and come up, with how many questions you ask it to do.
I think a fun way that you can also use it is if you're introducing a unit, you ask it to write a quick introduction that would hook your students, or, write a poem that has this kind of content. And so, it could have key vocabulary from the unit that you're introducing, and then share that poem with students, and then have them use an AI tool like Adobe Express, since they all have that, to generate an image or, kind of generate their response, an infographic from what they think the unit is going to be about. So it's just a way of how you could use the tool and then use the results from the tool with the students.
I will say, I think that what I have found, at least my experience has been with Copilot, I like when it spits out the response, I like its suggestions better than I do ChatGPT.
Yes.
So for example, when I did the seating chart example, one of the suggestions was, would you like team building activities for this class? Right? And I feel like ChatGPT tends to stick to just that prompt and how to refine the prompt. But this one knew I was building a seating chart. And then one of its suggestions was, would you like me to come up with some team building activities you could do? Sure. And it brainstormed like 10 different things I could do with kids at the beginning to get them, to get to know each other, work together, etc. Thinks ahead. Yes, that's a good way of putting it, because on a lot of those, it does sort of anticipate what your next step might be.
I think to wrap up,
Yes, there is. Sorry, Elizabeth. Yes, there is an app available.
Oh, yes, there is. But just to wrap up, we are here as your digital learning coordinators to support you, support your students. So please reach out. Erica, where will the recording for this session be? I believe all the recordings are going to be on Wake Connect. I believe
Correct.
Ms. Meehan can answer that question.
They'll be on Wake Connect. I did start it like right after Kurt explained how to get to it. So you may need to explain how to get to it, but everything else is on there. But I started it just a little bit late. But yeah, it'll be on the Wake Connect page.
But yes, if you want support from your digital learning coordinators of introducing this to your teachers, working with PLCs, of how you can use this, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help you, support you, and like I said, support your students. So please reach out, visit our website to get our emails. And then we also have a feedback form that we'd love for you to take a few seconds and let us know feedback from today going forward of these types of sessions and benefits and all that good stuff. And thank you again for joining us today. Happy Friday and happy spring break to all of those that are on spring break next week.